Whispers Beneath the Pages, The Dark Side of Wonderland and the 100 Acre Wood, podcast in the quiet of difficult times, hosted by Corin. Some stories stay with us forever. We first meet them as children, curled up with a book, a blanket, maybe a stuffed bear. They comfort us. They color our dreams. They build imaginary worlds where nothing can hurt us. But what if those worlds were born from pain? What if Wonderland and the 100 Acre Wood weren't escapes, but reflections of war, mental illness, lost childhoods, and emotional silence? Today, we step into two iconic literary lands and explore the truths their authors never meant to say aloud. This is In the Quiet of Difficult Times. And these are the whispers beneath the pages. Whole Part 1, Alice in Wonderland, Born from Shadows and Smoke. In 1862, a shy Oxford mathematician named Charles Dodgson, better known as Lewis Carroll, went rowing with three little girls. One of them was named Alice Liddell. She was real, playful, curious, adored. And as they floated down the Thames, he told her a story about a girl who fell into a rabbit hole, into a world of disappearing cats, mad tea parties, and logic turned upside down. It would become Alice's adventures in Wonderland. But behind the riddles and rhymes was something unsettling. Carroll suffered from debilitating migraines and possibly temporal lobe epilepsy, conditions that distorted perception, made time stretch and bodies grow or shrink. Symptoms that feel eerily similar to Alice's experiences in Wonderland. He also had a controversial fondness for little girls. He photographed them, wrote to them, obsessed over innocence. Today, scholars still debate whether it was affection or something darker. Many of his personal letters were mysteriously destroyed after his death. The Mad Hatter and Victorian Madness. The Mad Hatter? He wasn't fiction. Hat makers in Victorian England suffered from mercury poisoning, which caused tremors, hallucinations, and madness. Carroll's world wasn't whimsical. It was a mirror of his times, a society obsessed with punctuality, order, logic, and mental control. Wonderland mocked that, tore it apart, turned time into nonsense and rules into riddles. And maybe it was Carroll's way of coping with the chaos inside his own mind. Part 2. Winnie the Pooh. Silence after the war. Let's walk into a different forest now. One with honeypots, bouncing tigers, and a donkey too sad to stand up straight. Welcome to the 100 Acre Wood. Created by A. A. Milne, a British soldier turned author after World War I. He came home broken, shell-shocked, haunted. He wanted to write something peaceful. So he turned to his son, Christopher Robin Milne, and the boy's stuffed animals. Winnie the Pooh was born. And for the world, it was a dream. But for Christopher Robin, it became a nightmare. The boy who lost himself. Imagine being a child, loved, but publicly claimed by millions of strangers. Christopher was mocked, bullied, and emotionally abandoned. He once wrote, "It seemed to me almost that my father had filched from me my good name, and left me nothing but the empty fame of being his son." He grew to resent the books. And later, he cut ties with the world of Pooh almost entirely. He opened a small bookshop in a quiet town, just a man trying to escape his childhood. The mental illness theory. In 2000, Canadian researchers proposed something controversial, that every character in the 100 Acre Wood represents a mental health disorder. Pooh, ADHD and eating disorder. Piglet, anxiety. Eeyore, depression. Tigger, impulsivity. Rabbit, OCD. Owl, dyslexia and narcissism. Christopher Robin, dissociative reality. It wasn't official, but it felt true. Because if you've ever lived with mental illness, the 100 Acre Wood doesn't feel like a fantasy. It feels like home, quiet, repetitive, gentle, but full of weight, when innocence becomes horror. In 2022, the copyright on Winnie the Pooh expired. He entered the public domain, and someone turned him into a killer. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, a horror film where Pooh and Piglet are abandoned and become feral, brutal monsters. Fans were shocked, but perhaps it's not that surprising. Maybe that's what happens when we try to bury grief under sweetness. When we paint trauma in pastel, it always comes back, sometimes with claws. What these stories really teach us. Alice in Wonderland and Winnie the Pooh have soothed generations of children, But behind them live real people. Wounded fathers, children who lost their names, and quiet minds trying to make sense of a broken world. They teach us that imagination is not always joy. Sometimes it's survival. And maybe, just maybe, the best stories are the ones that hold both wonder and sorrow, side by side. Thank you for walking with me today. Through Wonderland, through the wood, and through the shadows we often leave out of bedtime stories. If this episode touched something within you, share it with someone who still remembers the comfort of a childhood book, but also knows the silence in between the pages. You can reach me at Corinne, informingthecommunity@gmail.com, or support this podcast via Cash App.